grade 7 learners. Our lesson today is about solubility. In this lesson, we're going to recognize between unsaturated, saturated, and supersaturated. And also at the last of the lesson, we're going to differentiate between dilution and concentration. Okay, let's start. Solubility is the maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved in a given volume of solvent at specified temperature. As we studied before, solute is the solid particles and solvent is the liquid particles. So when the solute dissolved in solvent, it has to give us a new solution. So this solvent could be normal temperature, high temperature, or low temperature. So every solute has to dissolve in the solvent. It could be sugar and water, it could be milk and water. The important part in this lesson is that it has to become a solution. Let's move to the second slide. Here we have two pictures, two examples, which materials dissolved in water. If we just look here, we have wax, we have sugar, we have sand, jelly, and salt. In the second picture, we have sugar, salt, coffee, curry powder, milk, and pepper. Which of these materials dissolve in water? Wax, it contains oil. Can oil dissolve in water? Can salt dissolve in water? Can the jelly dissolve in water? Or the sand, can it dissolve in water? The sugar, can it dissolve in water? If you just focus well, the sand, of course, cannot dissolve in water. Even the wax that it contains oil, it cannot dissolve in water. While salt and sugar, for sure, it dissolved in water. Let's move to the second one. We have sugar, it dissolved in water. We have salt, it dissolves in water. Coffee, it needs a warm water in order to dissolve, but it dissolves also in water. Even here, pepper, milk, and curry powder, all of them, they dissolved in water. Let's move to the second one. What are the types of solution? We have unsaturated solutions, we have saturated solutions, and we have supersaturated solutions. This is an example about unsaturated, saturated, and supersaturated. It's the same tube for the three kinds of solutions, three types of solution. The first one, in this tube, we add a same level of water. We have level of water. We add solute. This solute, let's say an example, it's water and sugar. If we add amount of, let's say, 3 particles or 4 particles of sugar to the water, it can dissolve because it's little amount of solute, little amount of sugar. So we call it unsaturated solution. To the same tube, it's the same tube, this one and this one. To the same tube, I add more sugar to the water. I add more sugar. So at the bottom of the tube, you will recognize that not all the sugar dissolved in the tube. So we call it saturated solution. At the same, also at the same tube and at the same kind of level of water, the same amount of water, I add also more amount of solute, more particles of sugar. You will recognize at the bottom of the beaker, at the bottom of the tube, sugar particles. So we call it supersaturated solution. This is an increasing concentration. This is another example. Adding solute to various solution. This is a beaker. We have a quantity amount of water. This one we add. Let's say an example. Let's say it's sugar and tea. Let's say it's cup of tea. First one I add one particle of sugar. It dissolved completely inside in the cup of tea. At the same cup of tea, I added, let's say, two amount of sugar. It stays at the bottom of the cup. It becomes sweeter. So we call it saturated. At the last one, I added, let's say, 5 particles of sugar. It becomes sweetest. So we call it supersaturated. In this slide, they are explaining here about dilution and concentrated. What is a dilute? Dilute solution has a small amount of solute in a large amount of solvent, while concentrated we have a large amount of solute in a small amount of solvent. So in this beaker, let's say we have salt and water or sugar and water or a cup of tea. I added here 1 teaspoon of sugar in this beaker. So it has small amount of solute in a large amount of solvent. While in the second beaker, I add 10 teaspoons of sugar in the same amount of water. So it becomes more concentrated, becomes more sweet. At the last slide, we have an example about diluted and concentrated. This one, we have a glass of water. I added to this glass a red coloring, food coloring. I add a drop, just 1 drop of red color. You will see the color, it's very light. It's like a pink color. At the second one, I added 2 drops or 3 drops of red color. This one is darker than the first one. This one is darker than the first one. In the third one, I added 5 drops of red food coloring. It becomes also darker than the first one. The fourth one, we added more food coloring. It becomes darker and darker. The last one is the darkest one. It becomes very dark. This one we call it concentrated, while the first one is diluted. Here we have few drops, while here we have large amount of drops of food coloring. This is the difference between dilution and concentrated. Concentrated, it has large amount of solute, while dilution, it has little amount of solute. I hope you understood the lesson. If you have any questions, I'm ready for your questions. And of course, you're going to solve the homework after watching